Warning. Absolutely everything I'm about to talk about is beyond sickening, disgusting, and vile to its very core. Okay, I'm done selling you the movie. Let's jump in.
Gorgeous looking chicks. I mean the ones that look like real knockouts.
I Spit on Your Grave is a movie that requires very little introduction. If someone has seen it, you'll know immediately. From that dead glint in their eye. That 1,000-yard stare you only get after subjecting yourself to some of the most vile cinema imaginable. It's ugly. It's an ugly, uncomfortable watch. But it's also one of the most misunderstood films ever made, and it deserves a lot more credit than it gets. It aimed for a brutally realistic depiction of sexual assault. It was banned in theaters everywhere. Siskel and Ebert even declared it the worst movie of all time. And yet, its roots lie in a real, harrowing assault the director witnessed on the streets of New York. The movie then went on to revolutionize the home video market due to its rarity. Oh, and the director ended up marrying the lead actress afterward. Make of that what you will. So today, I want to go over why I Spit on Your Grave is more than just an exploitation flick. I'd argue it's also one of the most important pieces of grindhouse cinema. Ugly, raw, influential, and the blueprint for an entire generation of controversial films. It also inadvertently helped give rise to a vile subgenre that made Alfred Hitchcock question his entire life's work. More on that soon. So let's dive into the origin story of this, one of the most vile and disgusting pieces of cinema ever made, and the true story that inspired it all. Before we continue, consider smashing that subscribe button if your taste in movies runs as black as mine. And possibly a like if you want to egg me on to keep watching this shit. Let me set the stage. My girlfriend and I were in San Francisco visiting friends. She was getting dressed for the evening in the other room with her friend, while I sat on the couch, watching whatever movie had been left on Stars that night. The movie featured a woman writing a novel in a cabin. Nothing too strange. Then, a bunch of crazed rednecks busted in. They started humiliating her verbally. Then they started ripping her clothes off. They're laughing, videotaping it, while she begs them to stop. Then, they start taking turns sexually assaulting her in a brutally vicious fashion. Halfway through this nightmare, I just called out to our host, "Hey, can I change the channel? This movie is really bumming me out." Our friend walked into the room to see what could possibly tie my stomach into such a pretzel, and after a moment of analyzing, she gasped, "You've never seen I Spit on Your Grave?" Years later, I found myself thinking back to that moment. What had I watched? Why would anybody willingly put themselves through that? My curiosity grew into a weird, masochistic hunger, and eventually I decided to fully traumatize myself by watching the entire film. Now keep in mind, my first viewing was the remake of this film, the 2010 version, which I do believe has its own merits. But I decided to go back to the root, the original version, and I realized this wasn't just a film where a woman is horrifically violated and left for dead. I mean, what kind of movie would do that, right? Instead, it was a revenge fantasy. A woman who's been brutalized going on the warpath against men who have hurt her. That idea is absolutely golden. Revenge movies have all sorts of motivations, but the strongest motivation for a femme fatale? Avenge the men who raped her. That makes sense. Everyone, men and women alike, understands that instinct. When you're beaten, abused, and left for dead, you absolutely understand why someone would castrate a man in a bathtub, or shred him to bits with a boat motor, or whatever creative murder she had dreamed up for the entire feral pack of rapists. We want the blood by that point. We want the guts. But most importantly, we want them from the people who deserve it. That's the power of the rape revenge fantasy. Long before I had the misfortune of watching the rape revenge fantasy in Irreversible, where they kill the wrong man and the rape lasts for 10 whole minutes, I Spit on Your Grave made violence easier to stomach because you know the villains are going to get theirs. Sitting through the assault scenes becomes the price of admission for the catharsis that follows. That's why this narrative really works for the film. And even at its ugliest, you still have the glimmer of sunshine that these rapist pigs are about to get theirs in the brutalest way possible. The history of this film is almost as wild as the movie itself. There's a fantastic documentary about it called Growing Up with I Spit on Your Grave. A must watch if you're a fan, or even morbidly curious about who the hell would make a film like this. The movie was created by Mayer Zarchi. who got the idea after encountering a woman in Central Park. She was naked, beaten, stumbling across the pavement. When he tried to help, she told him she had been gang raped and barely escaped. Mayer and his friend covered her with a coat, got her into the car, and rushed her to the hospital. His kids witnessed the whole thing. His daughter remembers asking her mother, "Mommy, somebody was raped. Mommy, what's rape?" Which, of course, is a huge departure from the typical birds and bees talk that one would expect to give their kids at some point. Well, honey, when a man and woman don't love each other, but the man wants it anyways. This incident shook Mayer deeply. He felt compelled to make a film that showed how awful, dehumanizing, and ugly sexual assault truly is. Breaking away from Hollywood's norms at the time, movies often depicted assault as the woman's fault, or as a joke where she's passed out drunk, or worse yet, as titillating Friday night entertainment.
Hey, well, what do you want me to do? She's passed out. I mean, what would you do? Vote to it, man. How many guys would do it?
Mayer wanted none of that. He wanted to show it as the horrific violence that it is. And yeah, he may have gone a little over the top with it, but let's be honest, this is the perfect catalyst for a revenge story. Nothing is more horrifying, more visceral, or more deserving of righteous vengeance than the violence depicted in this movie. As they say, no jury in America would convict the woman for what she does in this film. And thus, a new femme fatale was born. Originally, this movie was titled Day of the Woman, which kind of sounds like an all-female sequel to Dawn of the Dead now that I think of it. Honestly, I'd watch it. First thing they needed? Their avenging angel. So, Mayer cast an actress named Camille Keaton after searching thoroughly through hundreds of headshots. It's not hard to guess what he saw in her, considering he married her immediately after the film wrap, but she truly was the perfect choice. She put herself through hell to give this performance, and has an essence on screen that makes her just as beautiful and soft as she is deadly and vicious. So, with the leading lady cast, it was now time to find 4 actors who would play a merry band of rapists. Mayer says that he was simply looking for chemistry, and found it with the 4 male actors that he had found. I'm still not sure what chemistry is required to nail that dynamic, but apparently Mayer saw something in these dudes. Personally, I'd be offended. But in interviews, they're all extremely nice, gentle people. I literally have no idea how Mayer looked at these guys and thought, yep, predators. It's like casting Mr. Rogers in Deliverance. Mayer also paid his 2 kids $10 apiece to appear in the gas station scene. A massive allowance spike, according to his son. His ex-wife even shows up in the grocery store scene. Apparently, this was a real family bonding experience. Nothing brings loved ones together quite like filming a brutal rape revenge movie in the woods, after all. One of the staples of childhood that I'll never get to experience. Production took place near a peaceful lake in Connecticut, shot by Yuri Haviv, who, by the way, looks exactly like Albert Einstein if he had traded physics for grindhouse cinema. The lake was apparently freezing. Several actors refused to get in. The crew built floating rafts for equipment, kind of like that video game The Forest, I guess, and created a rock that had a mold of her body so she could be more comfortable during the sexual assault scenes, which is important, of course. They also made 2 working boats. The budget was tiny, but the work was meticulous. For example, the infamous boat motor kill, they had to take a motor completely apart so the actor would even agree to grab it. Utmost caution was used, though Camille still reports several injuries during filming. Eventually, production wrapped, and the movie was ready. And then came the impossible part, selling it. A movie where the first half is a woman being stalked and raped by 4 hillbilly deviants? Yeah, distributors weren't exactly lining up. Then came the worst enemy of all, Siskel and Ebert. They hated this movie so much that they lobbied to get it pulled from theaters. And worst of all, they succeeded. The movie was essentially censored out of existence in the US, being denied screens all across America. Look, I have a lot of admiration for Siskel and Ebert. I watched it all the time when I was a kid, but this was a really low blow. Censorship in the name of discomfort is the ultimate sin against the Church of Horror. But a beacon of light came in to grace the film's production. The home video market was exploding, and suddenly you didn't need theaters. You just needed a VCR and poor impulse control. The result? The Streisand effect on steroids. All the controversy turned this into a massive home video hit. And these are the victories that make my bleak little heart soar. Every time someone says, "You're not supposed to like a movie like this," and people watch it anyways, the finest moments this existence has to offer. The film ended up sparking huge debates about artistic integrity. You guys have heard me talk about Salo and Pasolini's artistic mission. That film is depraved, yes, but you can clearly see why it was made. And as I've also mentioned, films like a Serbian film, much harder to justify. People demand answers when you make them feel sick with your filmmaking. Why did you do this to me? What was the point? And I Spit on Your Grave sits right on that uncomfortable line. Around this time, a new provocative style of filmmaking was emerging: sex horror. Movies like The Bloody Pit of Horror featured extreme sexual violence. And tragically, audiences loved it, cheered it on even, applauded at the assaults as if watching a touchdown. This horrified filmmakers like Alfred Hitchcock. After Psycho, he was pushed to make more sexual violence. People watched the shower scene as if it was titillating, not terrifying. And, predictably, when I Spit on Your Grave played in theaters, audiences reacted the same way. They cheered the rape scenes. They laughed at the assaults. They clapped at every violation. And Mayer was horrified. Look, you all know my feelings on sexual violence in movies. It's one of the few topics that genuinely makes me uncomfortable. One of the few taboos that feels like sandpaper on the brain. But culture has changed drastically. It's hard to imagine a rape scene being cheered on today in major cineplexes, which is good. It shows we've made progress as society, or that maybe it's just all simply gone underground. But back then, it revealed something deeply ugly about us: our fascination with cruelty, our dark, voyeuristic impulses. In my opinion, this is humanity at its worst, but also at its most honest. Why did we cheer on public executions? Why did the kids and the girl next door commit unspeakable cruelty? Because there's something dark inside us, something ancient, something that doesn't fit into civilized society. Most of us, we push it down. But horror movies, they give us a safe, contained space to tap into it. A reminder that reality is violent, chaotic, and fragile, no matter how domesticated our world becomes. I think that's why horror remains so popular. It scratches the part of our brain that remembers what survival used to feel like. You may have noticed I haven't summarized the plot. That's because it really doesn't need one. City girl goes to the woods to write a novel. Hillbilly locals assault her because they have a fetish for liberal city women. She survives, returns, and kills every single one of them after having consensual sex with most of them for whatever reason. That's not the interesting part of the movie, honestly. The interesting part is how the movie makes you feel, which is to say, filthy. But once you understand the origin, the real assault that inspired Mayer, you realize the disgust serves a higher purpose: to make you repulsed by rape. As of course you should be. Sometimes you need to see the brutality of it to understand it. It's not front and center in our everyday life. And art has one job, which is to make you feel. Sometimes that's joy, sometimes it's horror. Sometimes it's complete disgust. But if you're willing to ask why a movie made you feel that way, you learn something about yourself. It also exposes darker truths about humanity. Watching a theater cheer on a rape scene, for example, harrowing, but educational. It shows you something about the village you live in. And it isn't pretty. That's why I Spit on Your Grave is an important film. It's vile, it's brutal, but it's also an experience that can make you better. If you're disgusted, good. Speak out. Rise above those base instincts. Don't hurt your fellow human being. A lesson we shouldn't need after thousands of years of murdering each other, but apparently we do. That's why this episode of the Rocking Horror Picture Show exists. To give my hats off to Mayer for taking one of the worst things a human can witness and turning it into art that teaches future generations one simple truth: rape is bad. Don't do it, kids. Anyway, that just about does it for this week's episode of the Rocking Horror Picture Show. Let me know what you thought about I Spit on Your Grave in the comments below. Until next time, I'm your host, Sleeve T, and as always, I'm doing just fine. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Sleeve T. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Rocking Horror Picture Show. If you want to support this new twisted little channel, check out my Patreon in the link below. It's going to have all of the episodes uncensored, plus you'll be supporting my work, and thus I'll add you to the credits at the end. Hope I'll see you guys next week, and until then, rock and roll.